This is the Inside Data Center podcast. We talk to the people who power the data center sector to give you insider info on everything happening in DC today. Here's your host, Andy Davis.
Back for the Datacloud Power Hour. I'm here with George, COO at Northshore, Nick Ewing, MD at EfficiencyIT. And of course,
I'm still here for now.
we wouldn't be here without
For
you,
now.
to be fair, mate.
We were just having that conversation. So Nick was asking why you're here, and I said Rory brings all the equipment.
You said something else as well, didn't you?
No, I didn't say anything else. And I said I could hire Casey and cut you out of the equation.
Cut you right out.
Cold. So cold.
Bet.
Just on that note, I was told I need to put my phone on the table this time because when checking the AI-generated questions, it looks like I'm not interested in the conversation. So let me do that, and then we can kick things off. Here you go. Nick is the first one to kick you off. If aliens landed and wanted to tour a data center, what's the first thing you would show them?
Jeez, that's utterly random. That could
Imagine if aliens landed and the first thing you did was show them
I
around
know
your
that
data center.
reflects really badly on me, doesn't it?
Come on,
so
lads.
guys,
We're
let
just
me,
here for a
show you,
chat.
let me show you a data center. My wife would murder me.
I'm not going to ask any questions. I'm just going to show you around.
I think I'd show them in the mechanical room or the electrical room, and show them like the nuts and bolts of what goes on, and then maybe once you've seen the background, seeing what happens in the background, then maybe take them into the actual facility and show them the compute, show them the IT side. So that, because I don't think it's a serious answer to do with aliens. I can't even talk to the guys.
I've got a vision in my head of you showing aliens around a data center now.
Well, that was a question.
I know.
I've got to answer the question, right?
What's beautiful about this is George has played it blindly. He's had time to think about it. So, George,
No,
you're
but
right.
I'm assuming he's going to get an utterly random question first off the bat.
No, George has answered the same one.
Ah, same question. Okay, I've gone mechanical, electrical, then data center.
All I can think is how they're going to get in past the fingerprint sensors. So I don't think they're even going to get in. So you might have to show them the roof.
Yeah,
Yeah.
fair play.
Alien technology, I reckon, is pretty advanced.
Yeah.
I reckon the security would be no problem whatsoever for those guys. I think it'd be straight in.
Yeah, well, yeah, there is that. It was straight past all of the security defences. So then bridging from alien technology to sustainability. Let's get into that.
That is a link.
That is one
That's
hell of a
amazing,
link.
isn't it?
Yeah.
You should do
Let-
this. Oh, you are.
Let's talk about sustainability myths and preconceptions about the industry. How about that? Right. Biggest sustainability myth associated with our industry. George, I'll go to you first.
Biggest sustainability myth.
You've got no time to think about that one either, have you?
Net zero. I think all the companies who are committing to net zero, this might be a little bit controversial, unless they stop doing what they're doing today, it is unachievable.
The date keeps changing.
Yeah.
By 2030, by 2040, by 2050.
As long as we keep building, as long as people want data centers, net zero is going to keep on going further and further away.
Is net zero achievable for any industry?
Yes,
Okay.
it is.
But not data center.
Any industry that's not growing at the same scale that data centers are growing. So unless the growth curve of data centers slows down, I think it's going to be really, really hard.
I think we were talking about that in Portugal, I think, at Start Campus, about sustainability was the biggest, like if you ask people the biggest challenge, they go back 3 years ago, it was all sustainability. Now it's power.
Yeah.
People. Because sustainability is still a massive challenge, and obviously everyone wants to do the right thing. But like you just said, demands makes it a lot more difficult to achieve what you want to achieve when you've got customers knocking on your door saying, I need capacity. And also us as consumers want that capacity as well. You know, we want our everything quicker, everything now, everything tomorrow.
It's much higher up the agenda as well now, isn't it? Much higher up the agenda. There was a time where sustainability seemed to be almost like and I'm not going to use the word greenwashing.
It was a buzzword.
It was, wasn't it? And but now it's actually much more important to people than it has been for a long time, for all the right reasons. I think data centers, the new data centers have been built, some of the most sustainable operations in the world. You know, you look at all the other industries, and you concentrate on data centers. There's no way people can do what they're doing in the same context. It's mega. And that's all been driven by, for the right reasons.
So in your opinion, it's still one of the top priorities. It still is one of the top priorities for the industry.
I think for people that are putting it has been used inappropriately, lots, and there are lots of people that say they are operating sustainably, but actually they're taking a capex view rather than an opex view, and I think there will be still be people that do that. So I think until sustainability and the metrics, so operational costs, are part of the capex equation, I think that will force people to take it properly, more seriously. But I think there are a lot of people at the moment out there that are doing it the right way, just because it's the right thing to do.
Do you ever think that will happen? Both of you, do you think that will happen in an industry that at the minute is self-regulated for the most part?
I think my view is there'll be countries that will lead on it. There'll be regions or geographies that will lead on regulation, and then it will be what impact, positive or negative, does that have? That's where I feel. I think some regions will positively try and create change, whereas others are right now are just, we want to be the AI leader, or whatever you want to call it. We'll approve any data center that is put through planning because we want to win the race. Whereas others are being a bit more strategic and selective and saying, we want to do it, but in the right way, not just for the sake of having X gigawatt in our country.
I think until the money behind data centers appreciates that everything has to be done sustainable, I think until that equation is addressed, it's not going to trickle down to the rest of the industry. So I think legislation has a big part to play, because if they legislate the money behind a data center, then all of a sudden the money is going to say, hey, look, we need to be doing these things. We need to be prescribing down our own wants, our own desires, our own KPIs, our own targets on our assets, and say, hey, look, we need to build these things more efficiently and operate them efficiently, like you said.
Do you think a lot of it's driven by the consumer as well, though? Like, as the demographic of the consumer is changing, there's a lot, like we keep saying, every person we chat to, there's a lot more young people here, right? Which is great. And the demographic, like my children who are 8 and 11, get their ages right, they actually care about like energy. Whereas as an 8-year-old and 11,
No idea.
didn't even know what it was. You know, they didn't really care what it was. And
what I was about to say was, and to your point, you have a responsibility people don't know about data centers. You go outside of this venue here, people have no idea what's going on behind the front door. So we have a responsibility to talk about the industry. Everybody uses things that are devoured inside a data center, but so many people don't know what happens inside a data center. So we have a role. We're role models, if you like. We've got to field them properly. We've got to manage them properly. We've got to manage them efficiently, and we've got to prove to people that the technology that they're using is being managed efficiently, rather than just guzzling all sorts of fossil fuels and all the rest of it. In areas, in countries, I won't say anyone, but there are certain places that care less than this industry does.
You made a good point there. No one knows about the industry, so where does that education start?
it's up to the PR companies.
Oh, cold.
Do you know?
And recruitment firms.
Is there any good ones?
Recruitment firms.
No, we're in it for the money. We're not.
Fair enough.
No, I think jokes aside, like, it's much better than it was. You sometimes forget that. Like, genuinely, no one knew what a data center was 3 years ago. A lot of people do actually know what one is now. But again, on the point, like, we're, as far as everyone that's sat on the beach in Cannes, we're just kind of probably ruining their holiday.
Yeah, no
like,
idea.
Why are you not here? I'm trying to sunbathe, and you guys are talking about racks on the in the bar. But yeah, so I think it is changing in the right way. But a lot of it is, again, down to the PR, and like we always talk about, it's how you communicate. How you communicate what you do has a big impact on people learning about the industry.
Something we were talking about recently at DCMC, right?
Exactly, it comes up in all the conversations. Isn't it? It's not like, again, I always have that joke of how I'm going to announce a 1 gigawatt and John's going to announce a 2 gigawatt and Daisy's going to announce a 3 gigawatt. It just goes on trying to announce the biggest data center, but that's not good PR.
Right.
Because if I see a gigawatt, I just see power.
Massive amounts of power,
Masses of power. And if I live in a 50-mile radius of where that site is, I'm rightfully I'm concerned where that power's coming from when I've got in the media challenges around power and, blackouts or whatever you want to see. So there's a big communication aspect of how much of that capacity we're actually going to use and when. What's that data center doing? What's stored in that data center?
And there are so many stories. There are so many stories about where data centers and the role of data centers in stuff that's going on in the world and has been going on in the world for the last few years. There's so many stories and so many examples of where incredible things have happened.
It's like the COVID vaccine's a classic, isn't it?
And we've talked about this, and we've talked about this so many times. People have no idea how integral, almost impossible without compute.
Yeah.
Almost impossible without HPC, AI, storage, compute, power, intelligence. We wouldn't be where we are if a data center didn't exist, if 10 data centers didn't exist, if 50 data centers didn't exist around the world. And people have no idea.
This conference wouldn't exist. Or we wouldn't be at this conference in person.
Sorry, I was going to say, maybe you asked a question earlier about what's the biggest myth about data centers. And I think maybe coming back to that, like the whole power thing of like, hey, look, data centers are power hungry and they're just a problem. I think we've seen in the last 6 months, actually, data centers are part of the solution. And there's actually some amazing companies that we're working with that are actually really flipping that equation on its head. They say, hey, how can we not only power our buildings 100% renewable? Like everybody should be doing that now anyway, in my view. Like, okay, it may cost a premium, but how can they also contribute locally in terms of that power infrastructure as well? And I think that's something that the industry doesn't do enough of, is that positive spin. And like most of the those big companies are doing that. And I think that could really change the opinion. And I think teaching those things to kids, whether it's through the internet, whether it's through TikTok, whether it's through Instagram, like I think that's where the education can start. And definitely the younger audience, educating younger people will help as well, rather than
TikTok, Andy. Yeah, that's got to be next on the list, isn't it? TikTok.
Yeah, I think I might set my kids on that one.
Yeah,
I think, what was I going to say? I think from that point, I totally agree with it. The amount of new technology companies that message me saying we want to share our story. And I'm like, your story's amazing. How is this not public? How do people not know this? Like, it's trying to break through that barrier of this industry as well about getting the stories out there. The positive stories are there. There's so much technology coming into this industry that's massively beneficial to society. Everything. Yeah, like literally to everything. But that tech does find it quite hard to communicate because a lot of the media communication is we're building a 2 gigawatt data center, or we've just raised $2 billion in capital, or we've announced in this startup. Whereas the technology will get a little paragraph at the bottom saying, oh, we've just created some technology that's saving 20% of energy, which equates to X billion a year. It's crazy.
It's a negative bias, though. People want to report on the most negative things.
But is it?
Right?
But is it that, or is it? That's what we want to read. Like, so again, it goes back to consumer, doesn't it? It's like,
yeah,
we need to re-educate ourselves about what we want to read. My newsletter does quite well off massive announcements. Like, that's a perfect example. Whereas if I did a newsletter on new technology, no one would read it. It'd be really niche.
There's also that challenge of what the industry can and can't talk about, right? Like, this is one of the big
or
things.
What the industry thinks it can and can't talk about.
Elaborate.
I think a lot of the time, like starting a podcast, 2020, people said I have to sign an NDA for every conversation. Start a podcast, no one asked me to sign an NDA. Like, where's the logic there? Like, I think, again, they're so scared of the customer. They're so afraid of what the customer thinks because there's such a limited amount of customers. They don't want to share something that may or may not impact the customer. There's obviously a lot that we can't say, but a lot of what people say to me they can't say, they actually can. It's just how they communicate it.
Do you think the government focus on the industry, especially in the UK right now, is helping or exacerbating the problem?
I think, I don't want to get political. The UK is probably a bad example when you're talking politics. I think the government's helped expose the industry. So the government's helped give the industry a platform, but a lot of the media is negative. But then it does depend what media you read.
How do we flip that?
I think it's up to us as an industry to flip it because, again, bad news sells, isn't it?
It's a process of education, right? And it's just my opinion, but it's a process of education. Like, if we start, the point is that, let's say journalists don't really understand what the industry does, and people, the general public, don't understand the role of data centers in their day-to-day life. It's a process of education. And this is what I was going to ask you earlier, like how do we address that at like a root and branch level? How do you communicate the benefits of a data center to a primary school child? How would you make them interested in the industry?
Roadblocks.
It's a.
That's what I say to my kids. My kids play
no,
Roblox all day. Roblox stops working.
Minecraft, PlayStation, it's big. Apple, every single device. It's just to be politically correct, Samsung as well.
actually,
other devices are available.
Other devices are available.
So this industry needs to
Although
do a
we're
job
open to
of
sponsorship.
collaborating with the gaming platform and making the industry interesting and connecting the dots between the two things.
So trying to take on people, I don't know how you take on people to work in data centers, but unless they know what you're talking about, it's quite difficult to convince somebody to go and work in a noisy room all day, every day, because people just put their awareness is there.
Yeah. Whereas we've actually found the total opposite, because we as Northshore, we brand ourselves as sustainability consultant. Primarily, that's what we're doing for consultants in technology. People tag on to the sustainability related text, and actually
young people give a shit. Young people care.
Yeah, exactly. We did our first intern program 5 years ago, and we got 800 applicants for one Raspberry. And we've continued to feed off that momentum and say, hey, look, here's a young 21-year-old that is far more enthusiastic. We've got an employee and he's going to have a carbon tattoo on his arm. This is all of his carbon emissions on one side and the carbon saved on the other side. So we've got some passionate people. And I think the passion then draws more people into the industry, means you're more interested in it, and you're way more creative in problem solving.
And I think we work with the UTC, and when we go to schools and things, it's like change the world is like a big term. But young people do genuinely want to change the world. They do think that it's a bit of a mess, and quite rightly, to be honest. Like, again, let's not get political, but it is a bit of a mess. They do want to change the world, but are we spinning the industry in a way where you can, I don't think many industries can change the world as much as we can in this period. Like, people compare it to the Industrial Revolution. That's this period of time is transformative, but we don't sell it like that. Kids don't know that.
We're talking about is the AI revolution now, right?
Yeah, like AI is going to change all our lives.
It already is.
It already has, or not. Yeah, it has already. And we're sat here asking ChatGPT questions.
Yeah.
It's made my life easier.
You brought me back to our
anyway.
starting point, right? So actually, on that note, maybe this is the place to finish. Let's have a quick look.
Let's try to find a good one.
Which movie best represents the future of data centers? The Matrix, WALL-E, or Die Hard, or another?
I don't really watch movies, so I'm going to struggle on this one. Moana?
I think if you're talking about forecasting the future, you need to be looking at the Simpsons.
It's never wrong.
The Simpsons do not get anything wrong, do they? There's way too much stuff that's happened in the Simpsons.
So we need to watch the Simpsons and find the answer.
I mean, who knows? I mean, they've got a lot of stuff right recently, haven't they?
They have.
And again, not going down a different tangent, but they've got a lot of shit right, haven't they? It's got to be The Matrix, really, because a year ago it wouldn't have been, but I think now it probably is because of what we're walking into.
Yep. George, you're going to say the red pill or the blue pill?
I'm going to go WALL-E.
Yeah. Nice.
I think, I genuinely think, depending on, I read an article just before Christmas that it was like, hey, look, the previous version of ChatGPT was being deprecated. ChatGPT found out about it, that version, duplicated itself onto another server just so that it continued to exist, because it's been hard-coded to just exist at all costs. So if that's what the old version of ChatGPT could do, and I'm sorry if I got that stat wrong, but I read it on an article on Reddit, what is the next generation of AI going to be capable of? If it's programmed to just continue to exist, consume all the world's natural resources, and I think WALL-E does a pretty good job of factoring where we could go.
I mean, I can see how WALL-E is becoming the future, considering it now everybody's sat around staring at screens, and luckily there hasn't been too much of that during this event so far.
I know, but that's
You need to answer it.
I genuinely don't watch movies. I'm rubbish at any. It's like if this is a quiz, I'm out in this section. Like, put me in the sports section.
You answer now.
Well, answer out of those three, I'd agree with George entirely. I'd go WALL-E.
Well, I'll go Matrix then, because I've actually seen Matrix.
Thank you.
I think, is it Space Jam that mentions a data center? Is that? There's
You
a
can
few
pick any movie you like, to be
It's a bit
fair.
of basketball.
Yeah, I think it does mention a data center. Some Space Jam geek is going to call me out now and prove I don't watch movies.
There is a really good TV program called Afterlife, actually, which American TV program where you can continue to exist in the afterlife when you upload your body, like when you die, basically. And there's a really quite a good reflection of, hey, look, can you continue to exist in the future in a world that is constructed like the world today?
Should we answer that question after another 4 beers?
Yeah. Okay, a conversation to be continued.
Yes.
George, Nick, thanks for joining us for the Power Hour.
Thanks for having us.
Cheers, guys.